Hey guys, this is George and I'm back with a new video. When I was a kid, I went on a field trip to the Alamo. In Texas, the Battle of the Alamo is the stuff of legend, and I remember hearing the story many times as a kid. When we were there, we got to watch John Wayne's The Alamo in the IMAX, and I saw the heroes of the Alamo fall one by one on that enormous screen. And then I was there, I was actually in the Alamo. In my head, I thought it was this huge fortress, but when I was inside the walls of the Alamo, it seemed claustrophobically small. In my head, I imagined feeling the frantic terror of the men falling back into these walls and making their last stands. I've actually always loved last stand stories. The Alamo, the Battle of Thermopylae, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and so many others. To me, it takes a whole other level of courage to know that you're gonna die and to still make the choice to face it head on. I hope that if I actually had to face this myself, I hope that I'd have the courage to stand and fight. Not everyone can do that. I don't even know if I could do that. People crumble, people flee, people beg for mercy. Nobody really knows what they're gonna do until their back's against the wall and it's either do or die. And so I think having the courage to face a no-win situation and fight on is one of the single greatest things a person can do. So you might be wondering, why am I talking about all this? Well, the reason I mention all this is because the X-Men are dead. In House of X number 4, they went on a suicide mission with the hopes of preventing a horrific future. In this story, the X-Men launch a sneak attack on a space station orbiting the sun with the intent to prevent a Mother Mold Super Sentinel, which is a higher level Sentinel that makes other Super Sentinels, and they're trying to prevent it from coming online and putting events into motion that will eventually wipe out life on the planet. It's an emotionally charged story, and for me at least, it felt like a kick in the teeth with each character meeting their end, but it was also something I thought was really special. The comic itself was full of these incredibly brave moments, and two huge things that really stood out to me in this issue. The first one was Cyclops' role in the story. I'm a huge Cyclops fan. He's always been one of my favorite heroes, and he is my favorite X-Man. For those who may not be familiar with Cyclops, he is a leader type character. He's sure of himself, he's confident, and he's the person you want in your corner if you're about to go on a mission where you might not come back. He's not a character who hesitates when it comes to running headfirst into battle, except in this story. There's actually a long moment where he hesitates, and it's not because he's afraid for himself, although he could be killed at any moment. No, he hesitates because he's about to order his friends, his family, to their deaths. So this all comes to pass because something goes wrong with their mission, and the Mother Mold, that Sentinel they're trying to stop, is actually coming online early, and they can't take it out from inside the space station. It actually can only be reached by going into space, and that's a one-way trip, especially since that station is orbiting the sun. And knowing this, Wolverine and Nightcrawler actually volunteer to make this sacrifice and to make sure the Mother Mold dies in the sun. And Cyclops hesitates. For a long moment he actually waits, and to me, in this panel, I think he's honestly considering not giving this order, and to me it's just a really powerful moment. And Cyclops is no coward. I guarantee that if he were there, he would have Nightcrawler let him do it. Teleport him into space, and Nightcrawler can teleport back, so he can be out there long enough just to take off his visor and open his eyes and blast the crap out of the Mother Mold and send it into the sun. If he were there, I think he would do that. But he's not there, and it's up to two of his oldest friends, and on his command, they're gonna go to their deaths. I just really thought this was a powerful moment because you can really see in these panels how much Cyclops cares about his family. Wolverine, Nightcrawler, all the others who died on this mission, and he just doesn't want to give this order, but then he does. But to me, that moment of hesitation says so much about the character and the anguish he must have felt to make that call. And that's just one of the things that stood out to me so much about this issue. The next thing that really stood out to me about this issue is Wolverine and Nightcrawler's sacrifice. If you've been reading X-Men comics for a long time, you know that Wolverine is basically a fearless brawler character type, and Nightcrawler is a very spiritual character. And in this story, in their final moments, you actually see a crack in Wolverine's fearless facade. And for a moment, we actually get to see a vulnerable Wolverine who's then comforted by Nightcrawler. And it's just a really fantastic moment. I mean, what happens next is that Nightcrawler then teleports Wolverine to the construction rod, and as Nightcrawler immediately burns up in the heat of the sun, Wolverine begins slashing away at the mother mold as his flesh is melting off his body, and they plummet together into the sun, and Wolverine's just slashing all the way down. It's just a really incredible moment. This is easily, for me, one of the greatest comic book moments of all time. And I actually just want to read this to you because it packs such an emotional punch to me. And I honestly hope you all pick up this issue because this comic is the stuff of legend. And here it is. Nightcrawler. You ready? Wolverine. So, I gotta ask. You still think there's something waiting for us on the other side? Nightcrawler. Worried about your soul, Logan? Wolverine. Just wondering what someone like me should expect. Nightcrawler. When you wake from this earthly slumber, my friend, look for me. I will be there waiting for you, radiant and with open arms. This whole issue was just heart-wrenching. I mean, seeing your favorite heroes fall one by one, but I thought it was also a really special issue because of those really special moments. And if you're interested in checking out other comics where heroes make their last stand, well, here's some suggestions for you. Number 1, 300, number 5. You've probably seen the movie 300, and it is a fantastic adaptation, but trust me, you need to read this comic, specifically issue number 5, where the 300 make their last stand against an endless army of enemies. Another one you should check out is Superman number 75. One of my all-time favorite comics of all time is Superman number 75. This is also the comic where Superman dies. I love this comic so much because you see Superman cut loose and fight till his last breath to defeat a nearly unstoppable enemy. The third entry, Ultimate Spider-Man number 160. For me, Spider-Man has always been one of the most human heroes. He's just a kid trying to do the right thing. And in Ultimate Spider-Man number 60, he dies protecting those he loves most. And his last words are incredibly touching, so I can't recommend this comic enough. The fourth entry is actually 2 entries. It's actually Crisis on Infinite Earths, specifically issues 7 and 8. Crisis on Infinite Earths is one huge, incredible story, but 2 particular issues, 7 and 8, are legendary in my eyes. In Crisis number 7, Supergirl comes to the aid of Superman and takes on the Anti-Monitor, who's an all-powerful villain all by herself. And in Crisis number 8, a battered and beaten The Flash uses all of his power to give the heroes a fighting chance by destroying an enemy weapon. The next suggestion is Fables: The Last Castle. I love the Fables comics, but most people I've talked to, they aren't familiar with this series. So here's Fables in a nutshell. Fables is a comic book universe where storybook characters like Snow White and Cinderella, they're actually real and they're living among us. The reason why they're here is because their worlds have been conquered by a genocidal being of enormous power. And Fable's Last Castle is the story of the last Fable book characters who made their stand to protect the last portal out of that world and into ours. The next entry is Thor number 362. One of my favorite things that I love in all of storytelling, but especially in comics, is when minor characters have standout moments. And in Thor number 362, a lesser known character named the Executioner gets to shine. When a horde of undead enemies are coming and Thor is out of commission, one god stands alone and holds the line, covering the escape of innocents. I could tell you how incredible this story is, but I'll leave it at this. The answer is always the same. He stood alone at Jalabru. And that is answer enough. Fantastic Four number 587 is my next entry. So Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, he's known for a lot of things. I mean, he's a jokester and all-around ladies' man, But in Fantastic Four number 587, we get to see him stand alone against an endless wave of enemies, and it's a sight to behold. I love this issue so much. And the last suggestion I have is Uncanny X-Men number 142. And this is actually my favorite comic of all time, and it's actually maybe the darkest X-Men story ever. Uncanny X-Men number 142 is the original last hurrah of the X-Men. If you look at the cover, it actually says it all. This issue, everybody dies. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if there's any stories you think I'd enjoy, feel free to let me know in the comments. And of course, if you haven't read House of X number 4, definitely go to your local comic shop and pick it up. And I'd honestly love to hear what you all thought of House of X number 4, and what you think is coming next for the X-Men books. I mean, do you think they're actually dead? Or was that some sort of decoy mission? Or is this one of Moira's other lives? I just want to know what you guys think. This Jonathan Hickman story, like most Jonathan Hickman stories, are pretty awesome, and it's just all over the place. There's a lot to take in, and we only have so many pieces of the picture, but it's all coming together, and I'm so excited to learn more about this story because I'm really enjoying it. And if you enjoy comic book content, subscribe to my channel for more. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Share it if you loved it. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.